So in meeting you and certainly upon election, and like I said, it was a time when I didn't have any confidence in politicians, in legislators. This was a time in my life when I met you, when you were knocking on doors looking for a vote, that I needed to bring an issue to you that I had written to many legislators that did absolutely nothing. And I told you what the problem was, that there was a law that was in place, Section 41, when I was in a car accident with the CTA, that allowed the CTA to get off scot-free. And I had ended up with, I can't even remember, but close to $800,000 in medical bills that was never to be recovered because of this Section 41 law. And I was not at fault for this actual accident. But when you came, your people came, you came to talk to me, and they knocked on the door. You heard my concern. You heard about Section 41. You knew something about it, but the in-depthness of it, I don't think the impact of what it had really done to a lot of victims of the CTA, I don't think you really knew that. And you made me a promise, because I did tell you that if you wanted my vote, you would have to earn it. And so that you did, and it took time, but you called me back once you had researched this thing, and you let me know that this definitely needed to be addressed. And it became history then, because you went into play to create a bill that went through the House. I'm going to let you tell the viewers what you did.
Well, first of all, it's really great being here with you. We do have a long history, and that history is known actually nationwide. So let's put aside the whole thing of running for township supervisor, because
Right.
That's not very important right now. What the viewers should know is, and what you had to deal with, and you had the faith and you had the patience. Legislation doesn't always come overnight. It takes time. People get elected, and they get voted out, and things change, and the governor changes, and so on and so forth. That piece of legislation took almost 2 years across 2 different sessions of the General Assembly. And so someone like you that had gone through the financial turmoil, the personal and mental anguish, the physical anguish,
Yeah.
you had to wait for the process to take place. But it was something that I promised to do, because I had known about Section 41, because I'm an urban planner, and so Section 41 was a section in the Metropolitan Transit Act of 1945, which created the CTA. So I knew something about it, but you're right. Here's the person standing before me that dealt with the egregiousness of that law. And Merle, other people tried to knock down Section 41. They failed. People had been trying to knock down Section 41, from what I understood, because I think it was my first, no, it was going into my second term in office, and they never could do it. So it was a personal journey, and we took it together. Legislation is passed, it comes out of people's heads, or it's big policy things. Very rarely does it come from an individual. And so I took, you and your husband through the process. But other people were involved. We met Lisa Parker, the investigative reporter from
Channel 5, yes.
And she chronicled what you had gone through, but nothing had happened. A lot of people had seen that. So we went through the process. We set it up. I got the bill drafted in legalese and all of that type of thing. I got it through committee. It was filed. Then I brought you down.
I remember.
I brought you down to the committee hearing. It was the committee, the Mass Transit Committee.
Yes.
That I ended up serving on. Took you before that, and it wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't.
Because much like in a law case, there were the proponents of the bill and there were opponents. We had the Corporation Council of the City of Chicago. We had the General Counsel of the CTA. We had all these different groups. I mean, we had the groups that had nothing to do with it. They were, you know, this is going to happen, slippery slope and all of that. And we appealed. I talked about the legality of the bill and went into all of that stuff. And you got up there, I said, well, I have, you know, Ms. Merle Huckabee here, and she's the inspiration for the bill. And you just, you knocked it out. People were talking about you that whole rest of the day. Who was that? Is that your constituent? She was so, I mean, it came from your heart. And we got it through first reading, went to the floor. And there were all kind of little nasty things, oh, vote against the bill, it'll do this, do that. I mean, they had money. You know, we didn't.
Yeah.
We had a case. And it got suspended over a term. It went into that next year. But we gained support. And we had a lot of people with us, the Illinois Trial Lawyers Association, so on and so forth. Merle, I think I told you then, they had written books, law books, on the egregiousness in Illinois of Section 41 of the MTA Act. Watch out for it. You can't win.
Nope.
We got it through. We went to second reading, made some minor amendments, and then we got the third reading where you actually argue it on the floor of the House.
Right.
And argue what I did. I sent you a tape of it. And so many people, I remember Lou Lang, who was the deputy majority leader. Let this man have the bill. The bill time has come. This 65-year-old law, da-da-da-da-da. And it just barely got through because the people on the other side of the aisle weren't going to vote for it.
Right.
It got through and it went to the Senate. Got through the Senate. Had a good advocate over in the Senate. Of course, getting something through the House is always harder than the Senate. And so you had a bill that passed. The question was the governor going to sign it? And it was Governor Quinn at the time.
Right.
Or was it Blagojevich?
No, it was Governor Quinn. I remember.
Okay. It was Quinn.
Because he wanted to quietly sign it.
Pardon me?
He wanted to quietly sign it.
He wanted to quietly sign it because, you know, like I said, these lobbyists are very important. But you and I didn't care. And I took you through the entire process. I would call you, it went through this, it went through that. Here's a setback, these people against it. One of the proudest days, and I never forget, I was coming back from a function at the governor's mansion when I found that he signed it. And I probably did dance down the street. I called you, and we just, because, you know, we worked on this thing, and we prayed on it. Remember when
I came down there, yes, I asked you, did you
in
believe
my
in God?
office
Because I knew he had put it in my heart to fight this thing.
So, and we won. Now, I've had some bills since I was down. I was a monster. I took the hard, you know, I passed the getting those the poor survivors of the Quincy Veterans Home. I increased the tort limit. A bill that's just hitting now, you're going to see it, setting up a framework for the sale of the Thompson Center and get that money back on the tax rolls.
Right.
Change the procurement code of the state of Illinois, you know, letting more minorities be able to bid on things. But I got to tell you, my biggest bill was yours.
Wow.
My biggest bill, in the 12 years I was down there, my biggest bill was yours because it came from a person. You know, I fixed a lot of things for people, but one individual who essentially took the brunt because you got nothing, you know, ex post facto, you couldn't go back and recover anything.
Right.
But you recovered things for a lot of people going forward. And Merle, there's parts of what we did in law books now saying, here's how you get around Section 41.
Right.
You and I were written up.
Right.
people gave us all kinds of recognition and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And I would hazard a guess, because 2 weeks after the bill was passed, there was a big accident CTA on Lakeshore Drive,
Yep, I remember.
and everybody could sue.
Everybody could sue because of the changes and taking all of that egregious language out of Section 41 and giving claimants their day in court that they really never got, you know. And part of that law, I think what I always remember is you are forever barred from suing, meaning you can't go back, you can't recover any of that. And just one little small mistake, I mean, you took what was a huge, to me, it seemed huge to me because the impact on my life and so many others that it impacted, it seemed huge, but you took, I believe that thing is it a page, a couple of pages long?
But the actual bill?
Yes.
Yeah, the actual bill was only 2 or 3 pages long.
Right, and you made it, I think is it less than a paragraph now? You know,
actually, Section 41 is a big, huge thing, but our changes took out those egregious, you know, you still have to file and all of that, but that forever barred from suing was stricken. And
claimants their day in court.
There were people on CTA who came to me and said, hey, I was against it, but you guys did a good job. And I never forget when we were downtown and we were honored. We won the President's Award of Illinois Trial Lawyers.
Yes.
I remember it was almost like we were walking down the aisle or something. Yes. We walked down that long aisle and people gave us a standing ovation.
Yes. Yes, I needed to put a tip jar down there too, because I'm sure it's lawyers that are winning off of that law and that cases now that, I mean, that allows their clients to move forward in a process where before that wasn't the case.
So if people listening, you know, the bills and legalese and it's the law now and all of that, but if you go out and Google Section 41, Al Riley, Merle Huckabee, I'm sure the Google would bring back news reports and news clips and so forth. So you were an inspiration for me when I was down there, and therein lied why I passed the kind of legislation that I passed. And so with regard to, you were talking about township supervisor, I actually was township supervisor in 2006. I became a township trustee when I had left the village of Olympia Fields. I was a trustee there for about 12 years. I moved and I became a Rich Township trustee. And then in 2006, I became Rich Township supervisor because the previous supervisor had moved. And I've been serving ever since as one of the few offices where you can hold, you know, dual elected offices.
Right.
And so I'm just looking for re-election because all of those things I talked about in other units of government that I serve, but especially in the legislature, come into play because I actually changed laws that the township is governed under, the township code. So that's what that's why I'm running. You know, I'm of course retired from the General Assembly, but you know, I am still the supervisor.
You are, and you are a man definitely of your word.
I am.
You are a man of integrity. I want you to know that you, Al Riley, gave me the confidence in our political system that was removed for so many years.
I'm glad I brought it back.
Did that based on you followed through. You didn't just say what you were going to do. You did it. You put action behind those words, and it took some time. You could have just said, "Oh, scrap this. This isn't," and you gained a lot of support. You gained a lot of support. And so I always say, and it's funny I say this because I remember when we talked about Quinn quietly signing that, I always say when he ran for election that he needed somebody that looked like you and me, and that could have been me had he
Yeah.
did a better job, you know, of, or if, I don't even know if it's such a, as a better job, but if he had put me on the face of that bill, if he had put us out there, I think he could have
Yeah.
gained more support, and maybe
He
even
really-
been reelected.
he really could have.
He really elected, and I think that cost him, and I said that at the time. Well, he can quietly sign it. It didn't matter to me. It was just about people moving and going forward, that they would have their day in court. And I think
Yeah.
what matters to me now is I want to make sure, you know, we have a lot of new faces and not so new faces that are coming and jumping in the political scene. And I want to make sure that we retain good government, that we retain good people, that we retain people such as yourself, a man of integrity, a man who has served this, you know, served the community, who has served as a state legislator. You bring something, and people may think of it as old time, but I don't think that anything ever gets old when it's attached to something good and it's genuine. You genuinely care for people. I was listening to, one day I was going by a friend's house and I was listening to some of the candidates as they were coming to the door. I said I would wait. And it was funny because some of the things that they claimed they were bringing were things that you already have in place, such as a food pantry. Talk to me a little bit about what Rich Township, what you do for Rich Township, what you've done, and what you plan to do, and how you plan to continue to make it evolve.
Well, I think you know, everybody, and I say this. One of the things, I'm brutally honest, because in government you have to be honest with people. You know, you just have to be honest, otherwise you're lying.
Right.
And sometimes it's like some people want you to lie to them. No, I got to tell you the truth. I got to tell you the truth about, you know, some of the things that Rauner was doing, and, you know, explaining something and explaining the technical parts of this stuff. And so, because armed with that information, then you can make informed choices.
True.
A lot of people, you know, it's funny, you know, your kid came home and said, you know, mommy and daddy, I failed the Constitution test. You know, you'd be ready to spank that butt. That kid probably knows more than a lot of the parents do.
Mm-hmm.
Many people do not understand township government. And I'll just go through that really quick. Township government is the oldest form of government, certainly in the state of Illinois. Rich Township, like many other townships, was established in 1850. Matter of fact, one of the people that established Rich Township government is a person who was the 10th governor of the state of Illinois that a lot of people still can't say his name, and they live there, Joel Aldrich Matheson.
Oh, wow.
Was involved in creation of township government. Modern township government just does a few things. It is a unit of government, it's an important unit of government, but it is not a city or a village. Therefore, most townships, not all of them, but certainly Rich, you know, does not have the kinds of budgets that the constituent cities have, you know, Madison and Country Club Hills and all the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
But they can do things that municipalities don't do. And the mandated, if you look up the statute, the township code, it said that townships must be responsible. In Cook County, it is the assistance in assessing real property. Outside of Cook County, township assessors actually do the assessment. In Cook County, there's a county assessor. But in that intervening 3 years between the triennial reassessments, the township the township assessors have to keep track of all of the properties and businesses and industries, so forth, that came into the area. So that's a hard job. That's one thing. The second thing is townships are charged with taking care of roads and bridges in the unincorporated sections of the township. Now, unincorporated, not
Right.
Addison, not Park Forest.
That's important. Yeah.
Right. Now, there's not a lot of unincorporated roads in Rich Township. As over the years, as municipalities kind of annexed them, there's just not a lot. In Rich Township, there's about 7 or 8 miles of road, but the road district is responsible for keeping them up, keeping them plowed, keeping them in good shape. So that's another mandated thing that all townships must do. The third one, and probably one of the most important ones, they're all important, but is the administration of general assistance. And general assistance is a cash payment to the indigent. That's not new. I hate to use the term welfare, but that was the first quote unquote welfare program. It was administered by the township. And that was way before TANF and AFDC and ADC and everything else. Right. Townships did that to give some cash assistance to people who met very stringent guidelines. Getting on general assistance is harder than getting on TANF, but it is a payment of last resort that the township does for the indigent. Those are the three mandated things. Everything else that townships do, which might be different from township to township, comes from the people asking for it. Okay. So we have an award-winning food pantry that we're in concert with the Greater Chicagoland Food Depository to provide food to people who need it. Now, there are some income guidelines, but many of those guidelines that people really need for food, are sort of broad. Someone once said, "Oh, there's a person driving up in the BMW. What do they need it for?" Because the person driving up in the BMW had lost their job. That's why they needed it, and
things are not always what they seem. Yeah.
Right. They're not, what could happen, by the grace of God, go any of us.
Yeah.
So the food pantry provides foodstuffs, canned goods, fresh meat, once a month, a couple of times a month, fresh produce, milk and things of that nature. And since COVID, we changed the way that we do it. It is drive up, drive through. Everybody's masked up and so forth. We take the information and we put it on little tablets to check and see if this person qualifies. And then you just drive up, pop your trunk, people put your food in, and you can go. If COVID was solved the beginning of next year, we might still keep that drive up system because it works so well. But of course, we have very stringent protocols and we follow them, but we have the same amount of people coming into the food pantry. The transportation services, we have a transportation department and we do about 35,000 person trips per year. And it is one of the largest paratransit services in the South Suburbs. The only one's bigger than us is, of course, Thornton. Thornton's bigger than everybody. And we've won awards, many awards. We had Driver of the Year by PACE, because that's an intergovernmental relationship with PACE. We've had Driver of the Year. I won Supervisor of the Year and Legislator of the Year for my transportation system from the Illinois Public Transit Association, because we won a $250,000 grant to come up with something called Trapeze, which is a GPS-based routing system.
Wow.
We were shaving 7 minutes off of a typical trip. So again, that's not mandated, but we have it in the township. We also run the old Jolly Trolley program for Park Forest. The senior center. We have a senior center taking care of most all the needs of seniors. Matter of fact, I just got to tell you, unfortunately, there was a very egregious piece that went out today from my opponents. Al Riley, closed the senior center and he raised taxes, which is all a lie. You can just look it up. But I did close the senior center, Merle. You know why I closed the senior center? And it is not closed. I closed it for something called conjugate meals. And then, golden diners, sometimes they call it. It's where they come in and we provide meals for them at a reduced cost and they can have camaraderie and all that. Well, guess what? The Park Forest area, if you remember when COVID really first started,
Right.
and all those people died in Luton. Well, guess what? Lutonman's in Park Forest. And one of the biggest COVID hotspots was the Park Forest, Richton Park, Chicago Heights area. I mean, so that's why I closed. We still do Meals on Wheels.
Okay.
We still deliver meals to people, the shut-ins, and so, because we can be safe with that. We're masked up. They be masked up at home. We give them their meal or leave it on their doorstep, they get it. Right. We still have another service called in-home care, where we have people go into the homes of folks. They've got their N95 masks, they're all masked up, and they do basic kinds of things, little cleaning, you know, they will get groceries for the person.
Like a homemaker service.
Homemaker service. And we've always had that, and that never stopped during the pandemic.
Wow.
So the only thing that stopped was bringing 20, 30, 40 seniors in to eat together or play bunco or do line dancing. I mean,
and you stopped it for their good, so nobody would catch COVID. To prevent,
exactly.
For preventative
purposes. For somebody
purposes.
to do a negative piece like that, you know, they figure, well, people will see that and say, oh, no, we did it for a reason because we want your loved one to go home.
That's right.
And not be on a respirator in a week.
That's right. Somebody's got to have common sense, you know.
Right. So, you know, we did that, and essentially we will open back up when we see the numbers start going down.
Right.
But the senior center is active right now. We put out a newsletter every month. We keep in contact with the seniors. They still do line dancing and all of that, but it's online.
Okay, and that's where the way of the world right now. Virtual is the way to go. We no longer have to be in the same room to be with each other. So that's one of the things that I think is a positive that COVID has brought to us and taught us.
Sure, it makes one aware of the kinds of things that you have to do to be safe. And frankly speaking, a lot of other cultures, you know, I spent some time in the Far East when I was in the service years and years ago. And the Japanese, for example, many times are wearing masks. You say, well, why are they wearing masks? You know why they're wearing masks? Because they may have a cold and they don't want to infect you. Right. Right. So, you know, those are some of the kind of things that we do to keep people safe. But essentially, that's what a township does. There are other departments that don't directly, you know, serve the people. They do and they don't. Of course, we have a finance department, we have maintenance and all those other kinds of things. But those are the basic departments that touch people on a daily basis. Of course, we have the township clerk, where you get licenses and all those types of things. But the township, if you get away from roads and bridges, like I said, there's not a lot of it, but if you get away from that, which is a public works kind of thing, if you get away from the assessor's role, which is sort of a technical, you know, land assessment, and they help you get your taxes down if you're paying too much. Right. And the general assistance part, well, you take that for a second. If you talk about those first two things, looking at general assistance and everything else the township does, the township is a social service agency. Right. If you take away those two technical aspects of what we do. And so we do a good job. You know, we were 2008, we were Township of the Year by the 1,432 member township officials of Illinois. They voted me Supervisor of the Year in 2010. We won a lot of different awards. So clearly, anybody can say, oh yeah, when we get in, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do more of it. Anybody can say that.
But you have a record.
Well, yeah, when you've actually done it.
Yeah,
and
that
we won a big
speaks.
award. A lot of people know about the GFOA, the Government Finance Officials Association. And we won their biggest award for our comprehensive annual financial report. And we won their top award. I mean, so this is what we're doing.
Yes.
And it's a matter of record.
I know that we definitely, we're going to be wrapping up, but I definitely, one, support that you, of course, this video, so we can make sure that voters, it's about voter education. Yeah. And like I said, we have to have people who have served in these roles who didn't just talk. They actually walked the walk, and they put action behind what it is that they said that they were going to do. And you've been that. You've exemplified that. And, you know, in the last 60 seconds, if you had something that you wanted to say to voters, what would it be?
Well, the first thing I would say is, if you want to know more about what the township does, governmental kinds of things, and I've got a lot of stuff on there. First thing I would say is, if you want to know more about what the township does, governmental kinds of things, and I've got a lot of stuff on there, I got a lot of things about COVID, go to richtownship.org, richtownship.org. We have a very nice website, and you can go there and find out all kind of information. Now, on the political side, if you want to know what myself and my slate are doing, or some things I did in the legislature, go to alriley.com, okay. And you'll find out more about my integrity party and other kinds of things. There's nice little tapes and clips, and you know, we answer a lot of the scurrilous stuff that the other side put out. But finally, what I like to say is something, as you know, I've been saying for a long time, which is the voter has the toughest job. You know, because everybody's saying that they can make a better mousetrap. So sometimes you have to do your research, go out there and see what kind of mousetraps they actually made, and see what they're saying. Anybody can come up with a positive or a negative mail piece.
Sure.
But it's what the person actually has done and what they know. And that's how people should evaluate anyone that's going to especially protect their vote, like a Merle Huckabee tries to do.
Checking back, and will you join us again? We're going to invite you to join us again, because you have a plethora of knowledge, of information, and expertise in legislation. I think that can help people better understand, the layperson understand. And so I want to, and I'm going to invite you back. I'm going to, continue. I'm going to definitely, we're going to support you. And we're just spreading the word, and we want people to know that we have to retain people of integrity. We have to retain people who are not just going to, again, talk the talk, but they're going to walk the walk and do action and put action behind the words that they say. Thank you so much for this candid conversation, for allowing us to have a little bit of your time. And I've even learned some things about Township today that I didn't know about. And so I'm always, whenever I'm with you, Al, I learned so much. And I look forward to talking to you again soon here. Good luck, the best of luck, and I'll be praying that you will definitely retain your position as Rich Township Supervisor. And as you said, if people want to know more, you have given us the information in which they can learn more about you at alriley, alriley.com. If they want to learn more, that's for the political part, but for the Rich Township, you said richtownship.org. So people can take a look, and they can they contact the political if they want signs, if they want to come and help and volunteer and information such as that. Is that okay? Yes, there should be a link on the political site on alriley.com. There should be there should be a link on the political site on alriley.com. There should be an email link in there somewhere that they can get in touch with us. Okay. Thank you so much. Great job for the people, as you always have done. Well, I can't. Thank you, Merle. Appreciate it. You do, because you really care. Thanks, Al.